It's always good to have friends of many different walks of life. So today we're going to be teaching you how to draw a nice picture in the landscape of Muhammad, peace be upon him, the holiest of prophets. Let's just pick a nice neutral color. Just give him a body, a little bit of a body there. See, it doesn't have to be complex. Traditional headdress they wear in the Middle East. Let's give this...
Well, it's funny, like Bob Ross is actually like an awesome painter.
Yeah.
Let's give this man a beard. There we go. Nice beard for Muhammad. Protect your face in the sandstorms.
He said it protects your face in the sandstorm.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
And there we go. Give him some facial features. See little details. See how that fills out the picture? Now, Muhammad, though, look at him. He looks lonely. How about we give him a wife? Let's just draw him. Little wife. Favorite one was Aisha, little 6-year-old wife. Right there. We'll put her in the hijab, not the full burqa. You can choose your favorite color for the hijab or burqa. It can be black or slate.
He said you can pick whatever color you want for the burqa. It can be black or slate.
Let's give her a knapsack. She's about that age where she'll go to school. Still seems a little lonely. Let's give him a few more wives. More wives. These ones don't have to be complex. And a couple more wives. Just a couple more wives to keep him company. 1, 2, 3. Of course, he had more. You can draw as many as you want. Use it. Muhammad liked some foliage. I'm using a forest green. You could use a military green because he was a warlord. Lots of Christians and Jews didn't like him very much. There we go. Just some foliage, some trees. Let's give some there on the other side of Muhammad there. Let's get just a little bit of green. Oh, that's nice. See, Muhammad was really clear that you should never hurt the trees in a time of war. Was very...
See, he does. He clearly knows some stuff about Islam, right? Like Muslims will use that as a point. He said, don't destroy the trees. Whereas people don't even understand, like, the point. Trees were pretty scarce in that area. Muhammad's conquering the entire area, and he's saying, don't chop down the trees. Why? Those are about to be our trees, and there's not a lot of them.
Give Aisha a little bit of a black eye. I think that's her next step.
Oh, yeah, he said Muhammad loved the trees, not so much his wives. He said, let's give her a black eye.
Muhammad, of course, did strike Aisha, but only lightly, causing her great pain. Let's put... See, look what we were able to draw here. Just a couple of minutes. Painting doesn't have to be hard, especially when restoration.
Made it all nice.
The holiest of prophets. Have a good week. Happy painting.
I mean, that's one of the best videos dealing with Islam ever, as far as I can tell. Oh, he's got a serious face on.
He's a political commentator. Mm-hmm. From what I understand, he's a high school dropout or a college dropout or something like that.
Notice he always has to start with something like that, right? Like, did you know that in kindergarten he blah 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 blah. Considered a fallacy. It's called poisoning. It's called poisoning the well, where you. At the beginning of a discussion, you put out some information that casts the other person in a bad light, so that anything you say about them, people are already like on your side and already more against the other person. It's just like, hey, listen to Mohammed Hijab here, who believes that if you just go with the Quran, you can have sex with a 5-year-old. This is a guy who believes you can lie to your wives about your other wives, and you can actually go get married to another woman, and she doesn't know about your first wife, maybe, and the second one. I mean, the first wife doesn't know about the second. So anyway, take what this guy says very seriously, ladies and gentlemen. Those are relevant, right? He dropped out. He's a college or high school dropout or something like that. Like nothing to do with the topic.
Yeah.
I mean, notice if we're talking about Muhammad and we were talking about Muhammad's relationship, let's say with Aisha, and we said, okay, so Muhammad, who was completely illiterate, he married a wife. It's like
he's qualified or trained to speak about these topics, and he speaks.
Now, notice
always.
What did he say that was incorrect? Like obviously just like a stupid thing that shows he's clueless. He clearly looked something, at the very least, he looked some things up in order to use them in his videos. So if those things are incorrect, call him out for those. But what in the world? I mean, he's not qualified to talk about this. He's a high school dropout or whatever. Hypocrisy. I mean, It comes down to, do you actually know what you're talking about? Right? You could have never spent a day in school in your entire life and just be completely self-studied, and you just read a lot, and you could know more than anyone in the world. Generally, you go in an academic route if you're going to focus on lots of learning and so on. But the idea that it's required before you are permitted to talk about something, total hypocrisy. I mean, we went through Ali Dawa's complete criticism of Christianity. Right now, on the spot, can you recall one single correct statement he made about Christianity?
No.
I can't. That's what I mean. Everything he said was wrong. Notice, guys, this is the same thing with tolerance and everything else. It's always one direction, right? It's always you be tolerant of us. We can be completely intolerant towards you. We can disrespect you, but you must respect us. You don't get to talk about Islam unless you are an authoritative person in our religion that we approve of. Whereas we, any idiot who knows nothing about anything we're talking about, atheism, Christianity, Hinduism, we can talk about you guys all day long. This is how things work. And by the way, all this stuff is why I would say, yeah, Stephen, get this guy on with you. Have a big, long 7-hour discussion. Prepare well and have a great discussion, because this guy he's going to do two things. One, he's going to blurt out some really embarrassing stuff that helps everyone down the road. And two, he's going to lie. And he'll get away with a lot of the lying during the discussion, but everyone will expose it later. Now, by the way, notice, there's a higher level of hypocrisy and inconsistency here. He's saying, unless you have a certain degree and so on, you are not qualified to speak on these various topics. You're not qualified to speak on about a religion. Think about his God and his prophet. His God and his prophet got all kinds of things factually wrong about Christianity and Judaism, right? So according to the Quran, the Trinity is made up of Allah, Jesus, and Mary, who are separate beings but work very closely together. That's the doctrine of the Trinity, according to Allah. Guess what? That's never been any doctrine of the Trinity. He has no clue what he's talking about. Or you could think about all the stories about Jesus, things that never happened, and yet they ended up in the Quran. So Allah and Muhammad could not tell the difference between a true story and a false story. But I mean, it seems like having some sort of education would fix that, but it's not. You just don't need it in Islam. Then on Judaism, the Jews say Ezra is the son of Allah. No, they don't. Show me one ever who said it. According to Allah and Muhammad, this is standard in Judaism. They call Ezra the son of God. So you have all these kinds of things. But I mean, Muhammad and Allah didn't get it right in what Christianity teach. They didn't get it right on what Judaism teach. They didn't get it right on history. They didn't get it right on science. They committed massive blunders in all of these areas. And somehow we get to the modern followers of Allah and Muhammad. And you cannot speak on this issue unless you are completely qualified. Okay, great. Then we should never listen to your God and your prophet tell us about anything, because they were completely unqualified and stupid.
You know what's funny, by the way? Since we just talked about Mohammed Hijab telling people you don't have qualifications and you don't have a degree. Back in the day when he challenged me to a debate and then later backed out of the same debate that he challenged me to, he was commenting back and forth with me on Twitter, and he said something to me like, he told me, even Alex O'Connor, what's his name, Cosmic Skeptic, he is more qualified than you to debate Islam with me, because he actually took some academic classes on religion. And I was like, I did too. I did too. I actually did. So if that's your if by that standard he's qualified to debate Islam with you, then that means I also took religion courses. That means I am also qualified. And then he, of course, dropped that and switched to different things. And later on came back around and again said, "You are not qualified to debate me." So you can't trust anything that comes out of this guy's mouth.
Very strange stuff. Very strange stuff.
Very strange stuff.
Delicate doctrinal elements, theological elements to do with the religion of Islam. He mocks Muslim people. He mocks Islam itself. He's done so in the past. He's never had.
Here again, the Quran calls Jews and Christians the worst of creatures.
Yeah.
Somehow, if you criticize any one of them about anything, including terrorism, child marriage, or anything else, shame on you. He mocks them. He mocks us. Interesting.
The audacity or the courageousness to actually confront a Muslim person. Let's take a look at what he said in his most recent video and come back and respond in kind.
Islam.
All right. So this is. I was going to play this clip, but Hijab plays it in his video, so didn't need to play it. And so this is Stephen Crowder with Alex Jones here. Interesting choice, because a lot of Stephen's friends and associates from over the years are now calling him out for various things. And so goes on with Alex Jones. And this kind of looks to me like, okay, how can I get some popularity, get some momentum going again? Let me get Alex Jones on with me.
Yeah.
Based on the idea that the blessing of Abraham going down to his, oldest son, talking about Isaac Ishmael, was a lie. So you have to believe, and this is why you have so much radical anti-Semitism across the Muslim world. If you believe that these people who carried the books lied and subverted the text basically from Abraham onward, of course there's going to be some animosity. So it says, well, we believe in the Bible except not everything else. For example, in Islam, this was one thing we talked about recently, where they get really mad, for example, if you draw Muhammad. Now, I'm not saying you should just go out and troll and draw Muhammad. But what I am saying is, hold on, that's more offensive than a religion that says Jesus is not exactly who he claimed he was, right? Muslims believe that Jesus was a prophet, but that he didn't die, that the body was replaced. Well, that's sacrilegious to Christians. Certainly more so than drawing a cartoon.
And again, we know what Muhammad did, who was basically, I'm not attacking Muslims, but it's true.
So Stephen Crowder, who...
I only saw that clip of him saying, we know what Muhammad did. I didn't see the rest of it. I didn't see what Alex Jones actually says after that.
I forget, because I think he said something about Muslims will stand up to. I think he said something that he agrees with Muslims on. I could be wrong, but I don't remember if he said it there or somewhere else. But I think he was saying something of, but they'll stand up to, whatever, let's say LGBTQ stuff or something like that. I think he went on to something like that. So
yeah,
but I can't remember if he said anything else. But yeah, I didn't see much beyond that clip right there. So, but notice, I'm actually going to agree a bit with Hijab here. He's going to point out that was actually a weak point, and I agree with him. I agree that was a weak point that Stephen made there. So what Stephen said was that the reason there's such hostility from the Muslim community towards non-Muslims is that they view the people of the book as people who corrupted the scripture and distorted the religion, and therefore they're going to go on that encourages violence and so on. And then Hijab is going to object to that. So let's see what he says.
I don't agree.
Hitherto shall be referred to as Stephen Cowarder, because he is a coward for not being able to respond or to face the people who he claims who he's trying to attack, or in this case Muslim people. He's just speaking to Alex Jones. I didn't know that Alex Jones was an individual who was very aware of Islamic doctrines, but he's speaking to him.
Yeah, because you have to be a scholar to have any sort of discussion, unless you're a Muslim, and then you don't have to have any expertise, and you can talk about Islam and Christianity and Hinduism and atheism all day long, and everyone should listen to everything you say.
This is so ridiculous. So you can sit down and have a discussion about something that is related to the things that you usually talk about. You can have a discussion about something that just comes up in a discussion that you are having. You can sit down together. You both know about You both know about AI. So you sit down and talk about it and make a few judgments here and there. Does this mean that you have to have a PhD in the field to talk about that? No. It's wild stuff.
This is very, very wild, interesting stuff. And
the thing that he does, Stephen Cowarder, I don't want to make a judgment here on that specific thing, but this is a very common narcissistic behavior, which Mohammed Hijab displays quite frequently, to give a derogatory name to every single opponent that you interact with, and to basically call them by that, and try to humiliate them, and try to be in charge of them. Try to say, I make up a name for you. This is your name now. I am the master here. And Mohammed Hijab does this all the time. This is part of his power play, which he loves to do. He gives you a name. He gives me a name, Stephen Crowder, every single person that he ever interacts with and hates. Very, very funny.
Whatever works for you. All right, let's see where he goes with this.
And he's making a series of spurious claims, speculations. The first one is a very weird kind of argument in the first place, which is that Muslims believe that the previous dispensations, for us, obviously, they're previous dispensations for the Muslim people, which are, let's say, for example, the revelations handed down to Moses, the revelations handed down to Jesus were changed, and therefore this brings about a kind of hostility that we may have for that reason to those groups. Now, this is a very strange kind of argument.
Why does he have to be so verbose and change words whenever he talks about anything? Why can't he just we all know what he's talking about. Why can't he just simply say the point instead of changing the words and trying to make it sound more sophisticated and be so verbose? It's just so funny.
It all seems like, it seems to just be entirely, this is impressive to a certain crowd.
Yeah.
And that's all.
It's so pathetic.
Yeah, like, hey, a lot of my stupid fans are impressed if I grab a thesaurus and look up a bunch of words, and any serious person's going to laugh. Like Michaela Peterson, right? He used some word and she cracked up laughing that he was using this word and trying to impress people.
Because, of course, just like most people who adopt any kind of worldview or ideological position, there are going to be things we agree with Christianity on and with things we reject. Just like you as a Christian, there's going to be some things you agree with Judaism on and some things which you reject. There's going to be some things which you agree with Islam on, some things which you reject. The fact is, you believe that the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessings be upon him, is fundamentally disingenuous. So that's something you reject. And you could make the argument that therefore you become hostile because of it. And of course, you're tone is hostile anyway.
Yeah, so he makes a good point. It's interesting that Crowder has made all sorts of valid points, and like the one time he says something that's weak, and I don't know, he may have said other things that are incorrect or weak or something like that. We've gone through a couple clips. He seemed to be spot on for the most part. But yeah, to sort of zero in on the one where Crowder's making a pretty weak point. Again, it's Muslims think this about Jews and Christians, therefore this encourages hostility. And Hijab points out correctly, hey, if that's all you're going to say, well, great, you think Muhammad's a false prophet, so is that encouraging violence against Muslims? Is that what you're saying? So it is that the reason there's a problem is the real reason for the terrorism and the calls, the attempts to violently subjugate Christians over the centuries, the real reason for that is not, oh, we believe your book's been corrupted. It's, oh, we've been commanded to violently subjugate you. We've been commanded to subjugate the entire world. We've been commanded, fight those who do not believe in Allah. We've been told those who are with Muhammad are severe against disbelievers, merciful only among themselves. Muhammad said, I've been commanded to fight people until they say there's no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger. Fight those of the unbelievers who are near to you and let them find in you hardness. These are the commands in both the Quran and the Hadith that lead to violence. In other words, you don't have to say, the reason for killing apostates is that they have this extra belief that causes us some degree of hostility towards. No, it's Muhammad said kill apostates. That's the cause of killing apostates.
Absolutely. But here Mohammed Hijab is doing the mistake of not understanding Stephen Crowder's actual knowledge and his positions on Islam, and then attacking him over some very, very weak thing that he said. I don't know if he's aware of Stephen Crowder's previous criticism of Islam, but if he just wants
I know he's aware of some of it, because when I searched for this video, it was I searched for Hijab responds to Stephen Crowder or challenges Stephen Crowder or something like that. Something from 5 years ago popped up where he was criticizing Stephen Crowder back then. So he's been wanting attention from Stephen Crowder for a while.
Yeah, he wants attention from a lot of people who have more subscribers than him. He also admitted before that he only challenged Tommy Robinson in the past because he has a lot of subscribers and that would bring him attention and all that. So
and by the way, that's just the new theory of dawah, that you've got these guys, they're doing massive damage to the ummah. The goal in order to help with the problem of the avalanche of apostasy is to reach so many new people that the number of people converting to Islam offsets the people who are leaving Islam, and so it's a theory. I don't know if it's an official theory in the head, but you can tell by the entire approach. Yes, we're doing all this damage, but if we can keep getting access to more and more people, then we're still doing a good job. Yeah. And it's just not working out very well. It's not working out.
If we don't take constructive steps, this is going to become an avalanche.
And notice it's a parallel issue. So you've got Crowder, and he gets called out for the way he dealt with the Daily Wire situation, the way he dealt with his wife, and the way he's dealt with some of his co-hosts and so on. And he gets called out for this stuff, and he'll acknowledge, okay, I'm not perfect, I've done some wrong things, but then he'll go into attack mode again. And notice you got the same thing for Mohammed Hijab. These guys it just becomes incredibly difficult once you've been praised as the champion of your group for a while. It becomes difficult for you to acknowledge, hey, I'm actually doing some really messed up stuff and causing a lot of problems here.
I'm not very good. Yeah.
So I don't really see where this is going. Of course, we believe that the Bible has been corrupt.
Oh, really? Then maybe your God and your prophet are too stupid to realize it, because your God and your prophet did nothing but affirm the inspiration, preservation, authority of the Jewish and Christian scriptures. Maybe they should have had some academic requirements to meet before saying those things that you reject and call stupid and false. Interesting.
Did you just call Allah and his messenger stupid?
He did.
Oh yeah, okay. Well,
yeah, he did. So he's saying, hey, we believe the Bible's been corrupt, but your God and your prophet said they haven't, and that no one can corrupt his words. So according to him, Allah and Muhammad are stupid. By the way, I think he's an apostate now. Yeah.
And of course, there is evidence for that. Bruce Metzger wrote a fantastic masterpiece on this point.
Here you have it again. Bruce Metzger. He talks about textual variants. Yeah. Once again, I'll just repeat it. Ladies and gentlemen, tell me what you mean by corrupt, right? Because if all you mean is there's a textual variant, let's say, great. Then you could say the Bible's been corrupt in that sense. But the Quran has also been corrupted in that sense. There are textual variants in the manuscripts of the Quran. And matter of fact, no one has done more to expose and no one in the Muslim community has done more to show that there are problems for the standard Islamic narrative in recent years than Mohammed Hijab, right? I mean, Hatun showed up with like 37 different Arabic Qurans at Speaker's Corner repeatedly to get Muslims to understand, hey, there are actual differences in your manuscripts. Why? Because people like Mohammed Hijab have been lying to people for years. Yasser Qadhi have been lying to them for years. And then people start finding out, well, wait a minute, if our book's been perfectly preserved, why do we have all these different Qurans? And then Hijab, in order to hopefully get some explanation, brings in Yasser Qadhi, who's the guy literally wrote the book on the sciences of the Quran, to explain things. And Yasser Qadhi's response is, dude, it is not wise to be talking about this right now. You should not be talking about this in front of people. We should only be talking. We should only be talking about these matters in private. Why? Because we've been lying for years, and you're going to unravel everything that we've been lying about for years. And this is the guy who has the nerve. Oh, what, Bruce Metzger, dude? So if you want to say the Bible's been corrupt, tell me exactly what you mean. Do you mean there are textual variants? Do you mean that there were some disputes about some of the shorter books like 2nd and 3rd John when they're putting together the canon? If so, that is true. There were disputes about some of the smaller books because they hadn't gone everywhere. Not everyone received the same books when they were circulating as individual letters. So some people said, "Hey, we've never seen 3rd John. Where'd you get that from?" And we haven't seen that before. And you could say that there are a couple of instances where you have the longer ending of Mark and the and that section at the end of John chapter 7 and the beginning of John chapter 8, where you actually have a little section of verses, and those verses don't occur in certain manuscripts. So you can point out all of those things. Is that what you mean by corruption? If that's what you mean by corruption, sorry, the Quran has been corrupt by that standard too. One, you have all sorts of variants in the Qurans. You have different Qurans that are used in different parts of the world today. If you go to the Muslim sources, they talk about textual variants. There were tons of textual variants. In fact, that's the reason Uthman had to burn all the manuscripts, was because people had different versions of the Quran, and he tried to cover it all up. Unfortunately for him, they actually recorded that they were burning all these manuscripts because of all the differences. If you're going to say, there were Christians who disputed 2nd and 3rd John, great. There were Muslims who disputed Surah 1, Surah 113, and Surah 114. And it wasn't some random Muslim. It was Abdullah ibn Masud. That was the guy Muhammad said, if you want to learn the Quran from anyone, learn it from him. That guy said that Surah 1, Surah 113, and Surah 114 are not supposed to be in the Quran. Those are Muslim prayers. They're not Quranic revelation. And then you've got Ubay ibn Ka'b, another one of Muhammad's top reciters of the Quran. He had all 114 chapters that are in the Quran today, and 2 additional chapters that aren't in the Quran today. He said, yes, we include the 3 prayers that Abdullah ibn Masud rejected, but there are 2 additional prayers that are supposed to be in there. And so you've got all sorts of things like this. You've got all these issues of abrogation. You've got Ubay ibn Ka'b saying that Surah 33 used to contain over 200 verses. More than 2/3 of that book are gone now. They were lost because the people who had them memorized died in battle. Notice, anything you say that you could accurately state of the Bible. If you want to say, hey, there are textual variants, okay. If that's what you mean by corruption, then the Quran is corrupt. If you want to say, hey, there were some disputes about some of these parts of the Bible, okay, there were disputes about parts of the Quran. So the Quran in that sense is corrupt. Do you believe that the Quran is corrupt? Given all this information, do you believe that the Quran is corrupt? They'll say no. Yes, perfectly preserved right down to the letter. Okay, well, you're clearly using some different standards here, and it's not the standard. It's not the standard that I would use. Like, my view is, if me and AP start copying a book, we're going to make some mistakes. Guess what? If you have thousands of people copying the manuscript, you can spot those mistakes. You can spot when someone makes a mistake. In other words, if 1,000 of us all copy the same book, we're going to make some mistakes when we're copying, but you can spot them because you can line them. That's what textual criticism is, right? That's what textual criticism is. A textual critic says, let me line up these different manuscripts, and when there's a difference, whether it's intentional or unintentional, there's a difference. If someone copying the Gospel of John in Egypt makes a copyist mistake, or even if he deliberately changes something, that doesn't change the manuscripts in Greece. That doesn't change the manuscripts in Rome. That doesn't change the manuscripts in Israel. So once you put them all together, you can spot where something happens. That's what textual criticism is. The only difference is scholars actually do that all the time with manuscripts of the Bible. When you've got thousands of manuscripts, you can line them up and figure out if someone made a mistake at some point. In Islam, they just burn everything and say, no, there's no variance, even though there indisputably are, as they're being forced to acknowledge.
Nope, no variance.
So everything Hijab saying, but notice it's, hey, the Bible has clearly been corrupted. Okay, using the only standards you could use to say that the Bible's been corrupted, you'd have to say the Quran has been corrupted if you're consistent with which he never has been, never will be. And then on top of that, it's the book that you're saying has been preserved, the Quran, affirms the perfect preservation of the Jewish and Christian scriptures, which you're saying have been corrupted. In which case, not only is your book corrupt, not only is the Quran corrupt, it's also wrong, according to you. Very strange stuff that this is like champion of Dawah.
Champion of the Dawah.
All right, we ready for some more Mohammed Hijab here?
Bible.
Yeah.
Even Christian scholarship has moved almost completely in that direction. I remember reading Karl Barth, one of the great scholars of Christianity in the 20th century, who practically as a Protestant evangelical, even though he tenuously kind of aligns with that group, considers the book of the New Testament even to be corrupt. So I don't think this is
this is the same thing that Al-Dawah brings up in his little speech, isn't it? So Al-Dawah probably just copies it from him.
Yeah, Karl Barth had a completely different view of what inspiration means, right? There are Muslims who have completely different understandings of what it means for the Quran to be the inspired speech of Allah. There are Muslims who have a completely different view of what that means from what Mohammed Hijab has. I've done recent discussions with Khalil Andani. He has a completely different understanding of what it means, of what the Quran is. But notice, I can just say, oh, look, he's got a different view. You see, he's agreeing that there are all these problems and so on. And it's a massive instance of equivocation, right? He's taking a word like corrupt and then giving it multiple meanings. This Christian scholar would say that the Bible's been corrupt. Well, not in any sort of sense that you're using it, right? If you're saying, hey, that guy's saying they're textual variants, Muslims interpret that as corrupt, and therefore they say, this guy said the Bible's been corrupt. But okay, if that's your standard, hey, there are Christians who would say that there are textual variants. Great, there are Muslims who will acknowledge textual variants. There are Muslims who acknowledge disputes about the Quran. There are Muslims who have different view of what it means for the Quran to be inspired. There are Muslims who have different views on all these topics. Why do you not say, according to Muslims, the Quran has been corrupted? Why? Because you're a hypocrite. That's what you are. That's what this dude is. All right. Ready?
No, but yes.
A big problem. I mean, if believing that the Bible is corrupt is problematic, then within your own school, within Christianity itself, within the house of Christianity, there are people who are going to have the same kind of proclivity or inclination. So that's
and since Muhammad's own top experts in the Quran did not agree with the Quran that you have today, then therefore your Quran is corrupt in the sense that you're using. In the sense that you're using, the Quran is corrupt.
You know, there are Muslims. There have been Muslims throughout Islamic history who have argued that while the Quran is the inspired word of Allah, the eventual way that it manifests itself into words and then is printed as a book is not directly his speech. That is only how humans interpret it and how humans produce his eternal speech. His eternal speech is distinct from what we actually have. This is not an extremely controversial view. Mm-hmm. But even that, if we said there are Muslims who believe this, and there are scholars, there are Harvard scholars and others who believe this, then by his standards, that would mean these Muslims do not agree that the Quran you have right now is the direct word of God, of Allah. Therefore, you cannot claim it. Therefore, even fellow Muslims are refuting your religion and thereby, debunking Islam. That's the whole same standard that he applies here.
Yeah, and you can go to. Notice you can go to people like Shabir Ali, who has far better credentials than Mohammed Hijab. But Shabir agrees with us that there are legends in the Quran. That these stories that we point to as obvious, Muhammad not understanding the difference between legends and so on, legends and genuine sources. Shabir Ali acknowledges that these are legends, and he says the Quran is using these fictitious tales and so on to make points. Mm-hmm. And so notice, I can say, even Muslims agree that the Quran is filled with legends. Hijab would never say, since someone has said it, therefore that's we just take that as a given. He would say, we are only going to agree with him if he produces a good argument for that. Yeah. And yet it's completely different. There's never been a concept of consistency with the Dawah guys ever. All right, here we go.
This idea that believing that the books are corrupt somehow is a dangerous belief, producing kind of hostilities for the Muslim people. The second thing,
and by the way, at the end there, he went back to something I would agree with. Like, if you're going to say that since Muslims in general believe that the Bible's been corrupted, therefore that's the cause of violence, that's a weak point. That's a weak point.
Yeah, what Mohammed Hijab should be saying here is that is wrong. That is not why we hate Christians and Jews. That is not why we are violent. We are violent and we hate them because the Quran says they are less than animals and we should fight them.
Yeah, he should just be saying, that's stupid. You don't even know why. You don't even know why I want to kill you. Ha ha! You don't know why I say we can lie to our wives. You don't even know. you stupid. So get me on your show so I can explain the real reason. I can show you the real reason we want to murder you for criticizing our fake prophet.
You mentioned about, drawing Muhammad, you kind of glossed over that, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You didn't make an argument there, kind of wanted to just mention it for some reason. And then mentioned, you believe...
No, it was actually very relevant.
We believe as the Muslim people...
It was actually very relevant to what they're talking about. They were talking about people taking offense, Muslims taking offense over things, while Christians would consider the way Muslims view Jesus as insulting, as sacrilegious. And so that was actually very much part of the point that they were making. I don't know what he's listening to.
Jesus Christ is not, as you say, who he says he was. Who he says he was according to you. Of course, we have different sources. We don't believe that the sources that you have are fully reliable. And we don't say that he says that he was God. In fact, you'll seldomly or scarcely find anything.
Hold on. Let's apply his standard here. Even scholar Bart Ehrman, who's a scholar in the field, who is a historian, says that the Quran cannot be taken as a credible source.
Wait. Hold that thought, because if I recall correctly, he's going to mention Bart Ehrman, and so this will actually be a perfect point to point out the problem.
Oh boy!
Let's go check this out.
Except for the Gospel of John and the writers of the Gospel of John, especially the Synoptic Bible or the Synoptic New Testament.
It's called the Synoptic Gospels, not the Synoptic New Testament. Or Synoptic Bible. What is this guy?
The Synoptic Bible.
See, he's not qualified. You're not qualified. You're talking about this, Mohammed Hijab. Why are you talking? Any scholar, any first-year student would know that it's the Synoptic Gospels and not the Synoptic Bible. Not making any sense.
Even the Synoptic Bible.
Humiliated. All right, let's see what he said.
You will not find this emphasized at all, the divinity of Jesus Christ. As Christians, Bart Ehrman even says that John, the Gospel of John, has a quote-unquote high Christology. And of course, that's something which...
So Bart Ehrman says that the Gospel of John has a high Christology.
Okay, so he takes Bart Ehrman here as an authoritative figure in order to make a judgment, and says even Bart Ehrman, says this. Okay, well, let's apply the same standard. Even Bart Ehrman, who is a scholar, a historian in the field, said, and I would know this. It's right there on video. I would know this because I asked Bart Ehrman, and he directly answered it to me. He said that the Quran cannot be taken as a credible source about Jesus. That the most credible sources about Jesus would be the oldest Christian texts which we have, which we can still trace back, which are still in existence. Those are the most credible. The Quran, definitely not. So even Bart Ehrman says that the Quran cannot be relied upon. Therefore, what are you even talking about, Mohammed Hijab? Same standard.
Yeah. So, you're right. Look what Bart Ehrman says. Okay, Bart Ehrman says Jesus was definitely crucified. What do you think about that? Bart Ehrman's wrong. You can't listen to Bart Ehrman. It's like, what? And by the way, AP, doesn't Bart Ehrman say that Jesus is divine in some sense in all the Gospels?
Yes, he said all the Gospel authors agree that Jesus is in some sense divine.
Yeah, and so let's see where Hijab is going here. But notice this stupidity. We don't fully trust those sources that our God and our prophet said are the inspired, preserved, authoritative Word of God. That's why you can ignore those sources and go to the Quran from centuries later, where our guy, even according to Muslim scholars, couldn't tell the difference between legends and fables and actual historical information, even according to people like Shabir Ali.
Is once again understood in the scholarly world of Christianity.